Let's start by a really typical and common Soviet tractor, the T-16M. Now, T-16M is a Kharkov chassis tractor factory um, product made from 1962 to, I believe, 1992. This is when they almost quit, but I will say the end date, I'm not 100% sure because I'm kind of reading from my head. Uh, the T-16M is something that was really common and it still is to this day. Now, this tractor has a D21 engine, so that is basically not the most powerful tractor out there, but during the 80s and late 70s, this was actually a really sought after machine. But the problem was you couldn't buy this officially or legally until the late 80s. That was about 1986 or maybe even earlier. But there were some quirky laws that even if you had one used, you couldn't buy it new. But a used one had to be without the cabin. Basically, you could own it, but the cabin had to be cut off for reasons that will not make sense even today, and it wouldn't make sense even back then. So, what is the pros of the T16M tractor? Well, these tractors, they are really lightweight. They have good maneuverability. The real thing that people sought them after was you can actually mount underneath them sickle power mowers, potato healing equipment, pretty much anything you could come up with. But once you actually look at the cons of this machine, you start understanding that they are actually built a lightweight tractor. And they are, because they are a sachet tractor, that means basically they only have a frame and everything is in the back. Now, the first and most controversial problem is the design of the frame. It's a U frame that has some structure in it. The older models had less, iron in them. So actually, they're prone to breaking, where the cabin ends. So those areas are the ones you want to look for, because typically, if the machine has been overloaded or overweight, and usually they were all overloaded, they tend to crack from there. Now the front also has suspension issues, like there's no suspension basically, but the tie rods are a very typical wear item on these. Also, the front bearings. Luckily, they're interchangeable with the T25A, so they are just kind of not so. They're just a common wear item you can find even today. Now, as for the transmission side, if you want to do anything with the engine, you kind of have to pull it out from the rear because the engine sits in the rear. And if you want to do any clutch work, you kind of are forced to take it out because, there's no clutch compartment that is not really accessible in these machines. The other downside with them is since people use them for pretty much everything, they usually really beat up. Really commonly, I think what I see is the doors are missing. Those are like always taken off because they just flop around and people try with open doors. This is how they get destroyed. So my take on this, my personal take on this is, if you really want like a collectible tractor, you can restore one pretty easily because there's still a lot of parts for these available. There's still salvage yards that have them. But for like garden works, maybe. But looking at the price tag, if the most expensive one I've seen was about $5,000, and that thing had really low hours, and it had been kept in one family. They bought it new in very early 90s, and they had this thing on their own farm or homestead for pretty much all their life. And but to find these tractors is usually really not common. Usually you find an old beater from a collective farm that has God knows how many hours on it, and usually it's just a nightmare to repair if it's way too broken. Also, only the models, I think T16M G, or the very late ones had a tilt column and a power steering. The older ones don't have a power steering, so if you drive to ditches and troughs, just be careful you don't break your fingers, because those are real finger snappers, trust me. You don't want to hang on to the wheel really tight. And to say it off, it's not a bad tractor, but looking at what people ask for them, I don't know, like, to me, there are pros. When you really don't have money to buy a Belarus, you could buy this, but then again, I would say Belarus tractors are now so cheap that there's no point of buying this one for the same price as you could get a Belarus tractor. So just be aware of that. But if you want this, I'm not here to stop you. Basically, just be aware that a lot of things you're going to find, if you're repairing this, you're going to find soon out that this thing may be a nightmare to be put back together. So my take on this would be that, yep, it's still usable. A lot of people have them, but their, glory days are fading away as the generations that use them actively are just also kind of fading away with the machines. So in hindsight, if that's what you want, just go ahead, and that would be it. Now we come to the T-25A, or the Belarus 200 series. Now these have been exported a lot also to North America, Canada, and US. So I've seen, plenty of them there in YouTube videos. So, and these are fairly common tractors also in the former Soviet Union republics. You can still find them in Poland, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, Russia. They are still really common tractors. They were made in the Vladimir tractor factory in Russia, or the former Soviet Union, but as of now, that factory's been closed for years, so they don't make anything anymore in there. But let's start with the machine overall. It has the same engine as the T-16M, the D21 engine, and the same horsepower, the same torque and ratings. The difference is this one has it doesn't have has the engine in the front instead of the rear, but the transmission layout is also a bit different than on the T-16M. But just to be starting, let's just start this. These were like a really sought after item in the early 90s. I remember as a kid, everyone wanted these. Like every farmer wanted a T-25, and I believe this is why these things are so popular to this day. There's 3 or 4 different models. The first ones were made in the Kharkov factory. They also have this really round and really funny looking nose, or hood actually. And the later ones were made in the Vladimir factory. Those have the square hood. So that's really easy to tell them apart. I would just say, as of a remarker, if you want a collectible or restorable tractor, yes, the Kharkov factory one is more appealing, but just be aware that the transmission sides on the Kharkov variant are completely different. They are not interchangeable with the Vladimir factory one. So they might look the same, but the internal components have certain things so different that you can't interchange them, especially on the PTO side and the reverse idler gears. One other thing that I want to mention is the models. The T25 is just a basic model. T25A is, I think, the next model where the exhaust was on the side, but they had a really light canopy style cab. T25A2 should have not a closed cap, but a full frame cap, basically. So in case you roll over, you don't, pretty much kill yourself instantly. And the T25A3 has, I believe, the full cap with glasses, with panels, and, something that looks more like something that people really want. Like it has a full cap, it's closed, it's you're protected from the weather elements. They never came with power steering. You can get some aftermarket power steering kits and pumps to these. The same as with the T-16M, the wheels are real finger snappers. Don't, like I said, don't hold too tight to the wheel, because if it, backlashes or backfires or just decides to go the other way, yes, it will break your fingers. I know some guys that have managed to do that, and it ain't a joke. The other thing is, I believe that also the older ones had a twin stick transmission. The later ones had a one stick transmission, and pretty much they modernized these things throughout the production. I believe these ones was from 1970 to 1996. They made these. They made these T25s for a long time, and as of parts, all now you can get is some really funny quality parts. The factory ones you can't find unless you buy some parts tractors. Usually, people would use these a lot. They would also use them on forest work. Just a real caution: if you find a T25 that has these big wheels in the back, stay away from them. The likelihood that the axle tubes will break off is really high. They have really skinny bearings in the back. Not ideal for forest works, but people use them. Just when I look at them using this, I'm not judging them, but really, if you overload these, the other thing that can break is the torque tube. Those are a real common item to break on these tractors as well. But what really amazes me on these tractors is the pros of this tractor would be that it fits into any garage. It's not too high unless you have a cab on it. Usually really reliable machines, but the downside of these, like on the T-16M, is also the fuel pumps. If you have an inline pump, that's good. If it has this rotary style pump, those tend to just go out and quit without forewarning. There's no parts for those pumps anywhere, and the parts you can find are probably not factory OEM parts anymore. So people convert them into inline pumps usually. That's the way to go. The other thing that I really don't like about this tractor is that a lot of them are just way too overpriced. Like, I have used these tractors in the past. I don't have anything against them, but I think like if you have to pay like $6,000 for a T25 versus you can get a full cab, actually huge cab Belarus tractor that has a front wheel assist and is way more better on horsepower and performance, why would you buy this small little thing? Like, that's really something that has never, I've never understood, but these go for a lot of money, and in my eyes, it's not worth it. There's some people, I'm sure, in the comment section that will argue with me, but I'm more like, if today, as of 2025, we have a lot of smaller Japanese tractors and things that thank you a lot more than this thing can. This has collectible value or just restorable value, but if you have it, it's good. But if you want to buy it, then I would rather not recommend buying it anymore, because a lot of them, they need a lot of work, just like the T-16Ms. The parts are funky, or you just have to get a lot of parts tractors. So in the end, if you can keep it running, it's good, but buying it, I don't know, like really, if you look at the price tags, think about your life choices. These are not the tractors that are really also desired by collectors. The hardcore ones probably are, but there's a lot less of them than there's these Vladimir factory ones. Those are like really common. But if you can see one or find one, they are worth picking up if you can get them cheap. That's what I say. So anyway, let's move to the next machine.